Imagine being lost in the forest with no snacks, no supplies, and your stomach growling louder than the rustling leaves. What would you do? Panic? Try to chew on bark? The truth is, the wilderness is full of food sources that people have been eating for thousands of years, if you know where to look. And no, I'm not talking about bugs and worms, though those are edible too. Today, we're uncovering 5 wild foods that you can actually eat in the forest. These foods aren't just survival hacks. They're delicious, nutritious, and could save your life one day. So, let's dive in before you mistake poison ivy for a salad. Surviving in the wild often comes down to knowledge, not equipment. If you know which plants, nuts, and berries to trust, the forest turns from a dangerous mystery into a pantry full of possibilities. But here's the catch. Not everything green and growing is safe to eat. Mistakes can be deadly. That's why, in this video, we're sticking to 5 of the most recognizable, safe, and surprisingly tasty wild foods you can find in forests around the world. We'll cover what they look like, how to identify them, the best ways to eat them, and why they've been part of human diets for centuries. By the end, you'll not only have survival knowledge, you'll also gain a new appreciation for nature's secret menu. And a quick disclaimer before we start. Always double-check your local plant guides before eating anything wild, because some plants can look very similar to toxic species. With that said, let's get started with food number 1. 1. Wild berries. Let's kick things off with a classic. Wild berries. Forests are bursting with them. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, elderberries, and even strawberries. They're sweet, refreshing, and packed with vitamins, especially vitamin C. But here's the golden rule. Stick to berries you recognize. Blueberries grow in clusters on small shrubs and look just like the ones in the store. Dark blue, round, and waxy. Blackberries and raspberries grow on thorny bushes with clusters of small, round segments. Elderberries, on the other hand, grow in umbrella-shaped clusters and are tiny and dark purple when ripe. The best part? You can eat them raw right off the bush. Toss them into a fire-roasted pancake if you're camping, or just use them to boost your energy on the trail. They've been a vital food source for humans for centuries, often dried and stored for winter. But remember, avoid bright red or white berries unless you're absolutely certain of what they are, because many of those are toxic. When in doubt, leave it out. Wild nuts. Acorns and walnuts. Next up, nuts. Forests, especially in North America and Europe, are loaded with acorns and wild walnuts. Nuts are survival gold. They're full of protein, fats, and calories that can keep you going for days. Acorns come from oak trees, and while they're edible, you can't just crack one open and chew. Raw acorns contain tannins, which make them bitter and can upset your stomach. The trick is to leach them. Either soak them in water for several hours or boil them multiple times, replacing the water until the bitterness disappears. After that, they can be roasted, ground into flour, or eaten as a crunchy snack. Walnuts, on the other hand, are easier. Wild walnut trees have green husks that you peel off to reveal the familiar shell. Crack it open, and you've got a rich, oily nut that's packed with energy. Native tribes around the world relied on these for survival, and even today, they're considered a superfood. The key takeaway? Nuts may take a little work, but they're one of the most reliable and filling foods you'll find in the forest. 3. Wild greens, dandelion leaves, and nettles. Okay, let's talk greens. When you think of dandelions, you probably picture annoying weeds in your lawn. But in the wild, they're a powerhouse of nutrition. Every part of the dandelion is edible. The flowers can be fried, the roots roasted into a coffee-like drink, and the leaves eaten raw or cooked. The young leaves, especially, are tender and taste similar to arugula, slightly bitter but full of vitamins A, C, and K. Then there's nettles, also known as stinging nettles. Yes, they can sting you when raw, but once boiled or cooked, that sting disappears, leaving behind a spinach-like green that's rich in iron and protein. Ancient cultures used nettles not just as food, but as medicine, because they're great for boosting energy and fighting fatigue. The trick with wild greens is simple. Harvest young plants and cook them if you can. They're easy to recognize, abundant, and they add much-needed variety to a survival diet that might otherwise be just berries and nuts. 4. Wild mushrooms, morels and chanterelles. Now we're venturing into controversial territory. Mushrooms. They're everywhere in forests. But here's the thing. Some are delicious, while others are deadly. If you're not 100% sure about your mushroom identification skills, skip this category. That said, there are two wild mushrooms that are relatively easy to recognize: morels and chanterelles. Morels look like honeycombed cones, almost like little sponges on a stick. They're hollow inside, grow in springtime, and are prized for their nutty, earthy flavor. Chanterelles, on the other hand, are golden yellow with wavy, trumpet-shaped caps. They smell faintly of apricots and grow near hardwood trees like oaks and beeches. Both of these are safe, delicious, and highly sought after by chefs. You can sauté them, roast them, or toss them into soups. In survival situations, mushrooms add variety and nutrition, and they can turn a desperate meal into something gourmet. But again, never eat a wild mushroom unless you're absolutely sure what it is. Nature doesn't mess around when it comes to poisonous fungi. 5. Wild roots, cattail and burdock. Finally, let's go underground. Roots and tubers are some of the most filling foods you'll find in the forest. Two standouts are cattail and burdock. Cattails are those tall plants you see around lakes and marshy areas with brown, cigar-shaped tops. Their roots are starchy and edible, almost like a wild potato. You can roast them, boil them, or even grind them into flour. Native peoples relied on cattails as a year-round food source, and even the young shoots are edible like asparagus. Burdock, meanwhile, has long roots that resemble carrots. It's common in temperate forests and has been eaten in Asia for centuries, especially in Japanese cooking. The root has a sweet, earthy flavor and is packed with fiber. Both cattail and burdock require some digging, but they provide the carbs and energy that berries and greens just can't match. When you're out in the wild, roots like these can mean the difference between surviving and thriving. And there you have it. 5 wild foods you can actually eat in the forest: berries, nuts, greens, mushrooms, and roots. Each one offers a unique way to fuel your body, connect with nature, and maybe even impress your friends on the next camping trip. Remember though, knowledge is everything. Always double-check your identifications, start small, and if you're unsure, don't eat it. The wilderness rewards the prepared, but it punishes the careless. If you enjoyed this adventure into the wild pantry, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more survival tips and outdoor guides, and share this video with your fellow adventurers. So next time you're walking through a forest, remember, you're not just surrounded by trees and leaves. You're standing in the middle of a living supermarket. All you need is the knowledge to shop safely. Thanks for watching, and stay wild.